It's game week 28 prediction time. It's a double game week and the games come thick and fast. I hope you're all ready for some absolutely disgustingly bad championship predictions. And with me, as always, is my co-host, Mark Ryman. How are we getting on, Mark?
I'm good. I think the lottery of a 3-game week helps with my general prediction level, though, right? Because, especially by the third game, no one really knows what the hell's going to happen.
Yeah. A lot of teams run out of gas. Can they rotate? It's a toughie. It's a toughie to figure out what can actually happen. And before we dive into these, just a quick reminder, if you're watching this and you're not subscribed to the OK Football Show, we have tons of championship content, just like our Game Week 27 Championship Roundup down at the pub. We sit down, we have a drink, we chat about what's happened in the Championship. It's a lot of fun. It really is. I'm not just saying that because I'm there. It's a lot of fun. Right, let's dive straight in. Blackburn versus Frank Lampard's Coventry City.
Yeah, well, they showed us, didn't they, by beating Bristol City after we both predicted the other way round, but still not convinced by Cov. And they're missing Ben Sheaf and Hadji Wright, I think. Still two big players missing. Mind you, looking at Blackburn's injury list, that's nothing. Yeah, I've gone for a Blackburn home win because they're at home, and Blackburn at home are a lot better than they are away. So I've still gone for 2-1. I'm not convinced by Coventry. I'm convinced by Coventry and the side. I'm just not convinced by their manager. So I think they're going to find this one tough. 2-1 Blackburn.
I've gone 1-1 here. Blackburn are on a proper wretched run of form. Last 5, only won once. And yeah, that was a battering of Portsmouth. And Portsmouth, like that, when they're away from home, they're much worse. But losing to Oxford as well, Oxford is a team that Blackburn should have beat. They should have won that game. But, Oxford under Rowett, completely different beast. As you say, injuries will play a part in this. Coventry have a good team. They're quite streaky as well under Frank Lampard. Like 2 wins in their last 5, but draws and a loss mixed in there as well. So yeah, 1-1. And next up, I want to talk about this one because Sunderland fans giving me a load of abuse in the comments. Derby County versus Sunderland. Spoiler alert, I've gone big for Sunderland here. I've gone 4-1 Sunderland.
Just trying to win them back.
I am. They mean so much to me.
I think it's fair. It was both of us. I think we both mentioned it. But 4-1. Wow, that is
missing 2 penalties.
Yeah, I was going to say. I think
he's
still going to be taken off penalty duty, though, isn't he? Cool. That's got
a touch of the Steve Howards about that. Steve Howard against York.
Yeah, that's a niche reference on the Championship prediction show, I think it. But yeah,
back when it was a League 2 game.
Yeah,
as well. That was League 1 at the time. Yeah,
I've gone 2-0 Sunderland for this, but I think we both agree. I mean, Derby at home are better, but they are. I mean, talking of awful runs, they are absolutely dreadful at the moment, and they lost convincingly to Watford 2-0. I mean, the new guy that came off for Watford could have gone sent off within about 3 seconds of coming on, but Watford were good value for their win, really. Derby didn't look that threatening. I mean, two missed penalties to stop Sunderland taking all 3 points against Burnley, which obviously would have been a phenomenal result for them. Mm-hmm. I feel like, in terms of Issador's form, I wonder if he's gone just a slightly off the boil. I mean, obviously that's going to throw your confidence into the bin, but he's a young player. Is that going to affect him? We'll see. But this is a great game to come back to, really. No offence to Derby, but, if you want to be playing anyone at the moment, it's probably them. So, yeah, 2-0 for me.
Yeah, I feel Enzo Lefebvre, like, just some of the passing and his movement in midfield is levels above the Championship, and I think it's a ridiculously shrewd signing. You stick him in there alongside Bellingham, alongside Rigg, And congrats to Chris Rigg, who passed his driving test. Like, you forget how young he is.
It's
It's
ridiculous.
mad.
It's
He's so talented.
Yeah,
and
ridiculous.
I feel for Derby. There's going to be an absolute battering here, absolute battering. And I'm choo choo. I'm on the Sunderland Express. You better believe it. Right, on to Hull City versus QPR.
I've gone for a great game for this. I reckon it's going to be 2-2. It's really tough to call. Yeah, I've gone for Desmond because I think both teams are on the turnaround. QPR for a fairly long time now have turned things around and have looked like the team to watch coming up the table. They could be fine for a playoff place by the end of the season. I really think they could be if they keep going. And it's where a lot of people saw them under Marty Cifuentes at the start of the season. Hull, obviously, new manager under Sellers, didn't storm it initially, but got some very good draws, including the Leeds game. They beat Millwall 1-0, but yeah, could have been more. And so I think, and they've signed about 100 players in the last couple of days as well. So that'll be interesting to see how they integrate into the squad. Every time I go on Twitter, I just see a Hull City signing announcement. It might just be the time
they signed Nordin Amrabat. He's got to be about 55.
Just getting them all. Get them all. Yeah, exactly. But no, I think this is going to be a really entertaining game. Hull don't score loads all the time, but they are finding their feet a bit more in front of goal. So that's the reason. Can't call it 2-2.
I've gone a bit more boring. I've gone 1-0 QPR. Yes, while QPR are on a good run of form, I think they could have a very much outside shot of the playoffs. I think this form is quite temporary. Like, they're on a ridiculous hot streak at the moment. It comes to an end. Like, they're not going to be. They've averaged 2 points per game over the last 10. I can't. It's not sustainable. It's really not sustainable. It will come to an end, but not this game week. And Hull, I'm not buying into their 1-0 win against Millwall too much. Millwall have been absolute trash since since Thicko Gate, even a touch before then. They're on a really bad run of form. Last 5, loss, draw, loss. And they're really struggling to score, considering how they were at the beginning of the season, struggling to score, and now Jake Cooper is actually putting the ball in his own net. So I don't see it. I really don't see. I'm not buying into that win. I just think it was a bit of an easy touch for Hull. Backing QPR here, 1-0. Right. Middlesbrough versus Tony Mowbray's West Brom. And I hear he's got a Revel bonus here, so if he wins, he gets a family pack share of Revels. Fair play. Man loves his Revels.
He does. It's great to see him back, though, isn't it? And it's lovely to see him back after, obviously, his ill health forced him out at Birmingham. So yeah, great to see him back and against one of his old clubs that he's managed. You can say that about a lot of clubs in the Championship, to be fair. Tony Mowbray's managed at least half of them, I reckon, particularly up that way. But yeah, and I think, West Brom need it because their form has really started to drop. Right, they're still drawing games, as they will do because they're West Brom. And just off the back of what you said about QPR, I don't disagree. But for me, one of the indicating factors is the teams towards that top 6. The form is a bit all over the place and dropping off. But Middlesbrough and Blackburn are those two really. Both of these teams, after looking like absolute dead certs to finish in the top 6 now, could be questioned. Borough haven't had a win since the away win against Hull, and West Brom haven't had a win since they beat Preston. So a fair few games away. I've got Borough to edge this 2-1. It's worth pointing out that I did do the prediction before Mowbray came in, but I'll still stick to it. I think it'll take him some time to get his feet under the table, but it will be a very emotional return or back up to the northeast. But yeah, I've got Borough to edge it 2-1, but yeah, knowing this game probably be a 1-1 draw.
I've gone the other way. I got West Brom 1, Middlesbrough 0. Middlesbrough have really don't want to say nosedived in form, but they've been struggling to win. Just that one win in their last 5, losing to Portsmouth as well, like after being ahead. That's worrying. And it's all about, I was saying it before with QPR, it's all about maintaining that the streaks and everything. And they've really come off their hot streak and struggling to, well, they can score, but they're conceding a lot. Like out of all the teams around them, other than Watford, they've conceded a hell of a lot of goals. Like the teams above them, West Brom 22 goals, Blackburn 24 goals, Sunderland 22 goals, then Borough 34 goals. Like yes, they've scored more than pretty much everyone else other than Leeds, but they need to tighten up at the back. They really do. West Brom with Mowbray, he comes into a well-drilled team. He comes into a team that doesn't score too many, but doesn't concede many at all. And he's a classy operator. He's an experienced guy. I reckon he can get like a message across to them because Corberán left them in a good way. So yeah, I'm backing West Brom here for Moggy to get his second stint there off to a running start. And now let's talk about another manager who's a manager who's on a hot run and a manager who's looking to turn it around. Oxford United versus Luton Town.
Yeah, so I've gone for an optimistic as a neutral but Luton fan. 1-1. Oxford 1, Luton 1. I think there were some real positives in the Luton game, despite it not being a game for the purists, let's say. But there were some definite positives, particularly defensively. You know, first clean sheet since November for Luton. And, you know, on another day, they could have created more. Oxford under Rowett just look, really convincing. And were probably fair value for that win against Blackburn at home as well. I think they had a ridiculous amount of shots on goal in that game. So, you know, it's going to be a tough game for Luton to go into. But if they want to, firstly, get out the relegation zone and then start to pull away from it, they're going to have to get some points away from home. And what better way to start than here? I just don't see the turnaround being quick enough to get all 3. And you know, if you were just purely going on form, you'd probably go for the Oxford win. Yeah, 1-1 for me based on those things, I think. And I think Tyler Goodrum's suspended for this game as well, which isn't too bad for Luton fans.
Well, they got Dembele back, and
Yes.
Cameron Brannigan scored an absolutely disgustingly good free kick as well. Mark Harris is back. They've got a lot of the players back that were injured and caused that massive downturn in form since Rowett's come in. 4 wins, 2 draws. But all good things must come to an end. And I've gone for an even more optimistic Luton 1, Oxford 0. Because I think a bit of Sunday morning down the brace. And I realise I've left my Luton gear up. I'm very sorry. I'm sorry, Editor Kate.
Someone gets a spanking.
I left it up. Well, we just come from a Luton phone-in. I think Bloomfield will mix it up a little bit up top and maybe find that little touch that is needed. Maybe shifting Jacob Brown into the middle. Maybe putting Zach Nelson out on the left. Maybe Liam Walsh comes in. Defensively, I think we're sound, but I think we're going to be going for back-to-back clean sheets. But I'm not so keen as to make this my lock of the week. Don't worry about that.
Good.
I'm backing Luton here. I am.
Yeah, I mean, like I said in the last prediction, I hope you're right. I think Oxford are usually good for at least 1 at the moment. So, 2 clean sheets on the bounce would be something, wouldn't it?
Who would have thought when Keith Keane was slamming that corner straight into the top corner that this would be a championship game? Wow.
We're just doing Luton references from like circa 10, 15 years ago now at this point.
Yeah, well, the Steve Howard one was actually
Slightly more recent.
22, 25 years ago, I think.
Oh, right. Okay.
Long time. Yeah, it was 25 years ago. That
Right.
York game is
Yes. Sorry. Yeah. The
2001.
Arsenal one's more recent.
Yeah, blimey, that's a long one. Take me back. Right, on to Swansea versus Sheffield United. I'll start here. I've gone 3-0 Sheffield United. Imperious. They're ridiculous. And they're back on the horse after their mini wobble. Swansea, I don't think they really offer that much going forwards. They really don't. With Potnick looks... They need a new striker, essentially. They pass it around nicely, but I think Sheffield United, they'll disrupt them in the middle of the park. They'll attack them. And Harry Darling, I don't know what he was doing for that Callum Robertson goal, but, you give anyone space in the box, especially you give Sheffield United space, you give Hamer, O'Hare, any one of their ridiculous abundance of riches, and Chris Wilder said they're going to add 5 more, you're going to get punished. So 3-0 Sheffield United.
Yeah, I've gone 2-0 for identical reasons. And the problem with Swansea, if you're not a team that scores a lot of goals, and then your defence start gifting goals away, more or less, then that's the problem. And they've always been a bit vulnerable to that this season. And now they're dried up with goals. So this will be if it is 3-0, like you said, that'll be the third 3-0 in a row. But yeah, I've gone 2-0 for this because that's my go-to Sheffield United, but could easily be 3 for all the same reasons.
Yeah. Right, on to Watford versus Preston North End. I've got 0-0 here because I think Preston are quite a tough team to play against. They'll defend well. They'll waste time, on the roads. They're going to be playing for a draw. They won't attack much, and I think Watford will struggle to break them down. Like Quaidu Bar, he's hell of a player, and I'd like to see that kids. We talked about the reducer that was put in like right at the beginning of the game against Derby. I'd like to see that guy put in another reducer. And to Story, because he was a right little gobshite during that Luton game. So
he did try and take on the whole main stand. That was fun. That was interesting. Fair play to him, but I don't think it's something he's going to win. I've gone 1-0 Watford for this one. I think they're going to be too strong. I think, as you said, Quaidu Bar's been great. Bayo looks good, and Loser back in the team playing well as well is going to be a big threat for them. So, I think Brad Pott's still out for Preston, but they just don't look much of a force going forward. And I believe they've only won 1 game away from home all season as well. You're right, they don't concede that many, but I think Watford will have more threats going forward than Luton, it pains me to say. So, Watford 1, Preston 0.
Yeah, but Preston, they also rested the big players like the Jensen, the Jakobsen. They rested them. So there is a chance that these players come back into the mix for this game. But still, I'm not deviating from my 0-0. It could very easily just be a Watford win at home. You never know. Yeah. Although they did lose to Cardiff a few weeks back. Speaking of Cardiff, it's Millwall versus Cardiff. And this one for me, there's a draw written all over it. I've gone 1-1.
Yeah, I can see that. I think for me, it was battle of who is the worst at the moment. And I think my answer is Millwall. A worse. I mean, Cardiff have just come off a 3-0 smashing in the derby. That's got to give you some confidence, doesn't it? Yeah. Surely. Incredible for them, by the way. And they definitely don't have the upper hand in that derby, but they were brilliant. As poor as Swansea was, as you said, for Callum Robinson's first, I think it was. Cardiff were excellent and they took their chances well. Millwall are terrible, as we've said, at the moment. And I can't see that changing. It's usually tight, but I've gone for a 1-0 Cardiff win.
Well, Cardiff are on a very good run of form, and I'm actually debating whether to change that now. But I'm sticking with my guns 1-1. Their last 5, they've won 2, drawn 3, and these are good wins as well. They beat Watford. They beat Watford away, and then they drew with Watford at home. And they've had draws with Cov, Borough, and then a win against Swansea, which was obviously the big one. Although, can you read too much into it? Because for a derby, form goes out the window, anything can happen, all bets are off. But Millwall, they kind of need to stop the rot now. At the Den, can they do it? I think they can. Their last 5, lost, draw, lost, draw, lost. So naturally, not that I look into patterns, but the next one will be a draw. It says it right in front of me.
It's your logic. Yeah. Well, I think, was it Bristol City that went through that run like a season ago or a couple of seasons ago where they just alternated between winning and losing every single week for ages? I'm pretty sure it was Bristol City. But yeah, well, you never know.
I did warn everyone watching this at the top of the show, these are disgusting predictions because we go off things like that.
Don't we that? Thank you very much.
Me.
That's you.
I'm the worst. Right. Leeds versus Norwich. And I smell this is going to be an absolute bloodbath as well. Norwich very shaky at the back. Yep. Although decent enough, like last 4, they've last 5 even, they've won 3, but they lost against Sheffield United. Most people lose against Sheffield United, but Leeds are just relentless. 3-0 against Sheffield Wednesday, who are a decent team. I think Sheffield Wednesday probably defend better than Norwich. 4-1 Leeds United.
Ooh. Yeah, I can see the logic, and I've gone 2-0. So I've gone slightly more conservative. But you're right, Norwich City away from home are terrible. I mean,
they beat
really
Luton.
Are terrible. They beat Luton, but again, that isn't saying a huge amount, especially at the time. And even in that game, considering how poor Luton have been this season, Norwich didn't deserve to win it. So. And I don't say that through gritted teeth. I really don't. Fair play to them for getting the goal. Luton certainly didn't pull up enough trees to storm the game either. But yeah, Norwich away from home, terrible. So yeah, Leeds 2-0, but yeah, it could easily be more.
I think it could be more. Leeds look absolutely ridiculous right now. Pompey versus Stoke. Pompey after a ridiculous turnaround against Middlesbrough.
Yeah.
Our thoughts go out to the Pompey fan that lost his life during the medical emergency. No one should go to football and not come back. It's like awful, absolutely awful. But I've gone Pompey 1, Stoke 0.
Yeah, it's horrendous, isn't it? And it puts everything into context as well. Brilliant comeback on the field from them. Certainly one that you didn't see happening, although, as you say earlier, Borough's form and confidence has definitely been shaky recently. I just think Stoke under Mark Robins, I'm going on the manager one there. I think this is going to be comfortable. I'm going to go 3-0 Stoke.
They've looked decent since Robins has come in. Have. But Pompey at home are a completely different beast to Pompey away. I would have backed Stoke to win if this was at the Bet365, but it's not. So I'm backing Pompey all the way. It might be more than 1-0, to be honest. Like,
we'll
Portsmouth
see. It's
could
a big swing.
Roll them over 6-0. You never know.
I've gone 3-0 Stoke. I think it's going to be Robins stamping his authority on the league, making a point.
Well, remember, this is a Stoke City without Tom Cannon.
Yep.
Although the kid that they brought in, very good, called him back from a loan at Walsall. Big step up, and he scored a goal. So fair play to him. Big moment for the kid. I can't remember his name right now. But it'll come to me as soon as we stop recording.
I can't either, but I remember reading it the other day, and obviously Walsall fans would
it'll pop up in my head. Like when I'm trying to get to sleep, and I'll just think about it. I'll be like, oh well.
Yeah.
Sheffield Wednesday. Danny Rowe, Sheffield Wednesday versus Bristol City.
I've gone for a Bristol City win, but not because they're in much form, but mainly because Sheffield Wednesday are dropping off, and there's Chansiria's caged Danny Rowe, probably metaphorically, but I wouldn't put it past him to actually do it as well, because Defon Chansiria's is the absolute worst when it comes to ownership, in tyrannical leadership style. putting a 5 million price tag on his head, for example. That's clearly rattled some feathers, and it's not the first time that he's had a falling out with the manager or the fans or pundits or the FA or whoever else. So I think that's going to start seeping onto the pitch. Their form's not been great either. So I've gone for a tight 2-1 for Bristol City. Yeah, they lost against Coventry. Relatively tight game, but I think I see Sheffield Wednesday dropping off a bit here.
It seems to have the hallmarks of Darren Moore at Sheffield Wednesday at the moment. Danny Roll seems to be getting fed up, and the only reason he's sticking around is because Sheffield Wednesday have a genuine outside shot at the playoffs. Interestingly, QPR just 2 points behind them. So yeah, maybe QPR also have an outside shot at the playoffs. But with all this chaos off the pitch, it could start seeping its way onto the pitch. I've gone for a Desmond here. I've gone 2-2. Bristol City, unless it's like Scott Twine's free kicks or Naki Wells getting like 5 chances to score a goal, that they're not the most clinical in front of goal. Sheffield Wednesday, I've become like quite a big Barry Bannon fan. I used to think of him as quite a joke with the dodgy Barnet and the fact that he stayed in League One with them. Could he step up to the Championship again at this age after so many years in League One? He looks ridiculous. He's very good.
He's that left foot has never left him. He's a great player. And
he never had any pace to begin with.
No, exactly. But you don't need it when he's got that quality. He is an incredible player. And it's great to see a player stick with a team like that. As well. Yeah, they're a big club, to be fair. But yeah, I think. I mean, Sheffield Wednesday should be doing far better as a side, and I mentioned the ownership. I do feel for them. I really do. Fan base must be utterly fed up of having that man at the helm of their club, because the amount of opportunities and good managers who have just not been given the opportunity to take them further up. Yeah, if they lose Danny Roll, it would be another opportunity wasted. But yeah, it's looking that way.
Yeah, a club that size,
yeah,
with such a good manager and all those fans, imagine what they could do, how high they could fly if they had an owner that was actually taking it seriously. Like,
wasn't fighting against the club at every turn. Didn't he say that he's not he'll put the club up for sale, but it's not his job to find someone.
Yeah, he doesn't want to find a buyer. He said, "You find a buyer, and then I'll decide if I want to sell if their offer is good enough." He's just
someone
a
talks to
dickhead.
Fans. Yes, that's the one. Yeah, he certainly is.
Yeah, and our final game is Plymouth Argyle versus Burnley. What are your thoughts?
2-0 Burnley. I've gone 2-0, mainly on Plymouth at the moment. I mean, they're not terrible form. Obviously they lost against QPR. At home, QPR are in good form, and they hadn't lost in the previous 3 before that. And Burnley don't score a lot of goals. I just think that Burnley can counter Plymouth's threats quite easily. Bar who is always the kind of ace up the sleeve of Plymouth. But we'll see. Obviously, the new manager may have something to say on that. Obviously, nobody really knows how he's going to fare in this league yet. So, I could be way off, but I think it's going to be a very tough game for Plymouth.
I could also be way off. I've gone Plymouth Argyle 1, Burnley 0. Because I think this could be the goodbye and good luck from Morgan Whittaker. I think he could go for big money to Burnley. And I reckon he scores. I reckon Morgan Whittaker is in the shop window now. He's going to show them. He's going to win this game single-handedly for Plymouth. And then Plymouth are going to defend for their lives. And Burnley don't score many. And Plymouth's goalkeeper was fantastic. He was absolutely fantastic against QPR. Literally kept it at 1-0. Plymouth, all sorts of saves. And he's not even the goalkeeper I thought he was. I thought that was Connor Hazard. It turns out it was
No.
Grimshaw or something. It's a goalkeeper I didn't even know they had. So I reckon Plymouth are going to play out their skin and get a big win here. Yeah, it's Grimshaw. Yeah, we had the same chat on Champ Chat. We couldn't really think about what his name was. I thought it was Connor Hazard.
Yeah, he was excellent. He was excellent. Yeah, but yeah, he's gonna have to have another excellent game in this one, isn't he?
Yeah, and I think he could at home park. It's Burnley have a very, very, very long trip. My geography is terrible, as you know, but I believe that is a long trip.
Anywhere to Plymouth is a long trip. That you can guarantee. There is no one in this league with a short trip to Plymouth, or in any league, really. I mean, even Exeter, if they're in this league, has still got a fairly long trip.
It's still an hour, isn't it?
It's still, it's not that far, actually. But yeah, it's because they're only Plymouth's just this side of Cornwall. But yeah, absolutely. Everyone's got a long trip.
Right. May I trouble you for your lock of the week?
Yeah, I've gone for a Sunderland win against Derby at Pride Park. I think Sunderland are going to come back from missing those 2 penalties and put Derby to the sword, who are also in poor form at the moment. So that one makes the most sense to me.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. For me, the bankers would be Sheffield United or Leeds, but I'm going to go for Sheffield United just to err on the side of caution, get some credit back in the lock of the week, I think that's a given. It really is. Easy peasy.
You'd hope so, wouldn't you?
Yeah. But that's it from us. Nice, short and sweet, because the games come thick and fast during the triple game weeks. Well, the double game weeks. But there are 3 games in a week period. So triple game week. That's good enough. Remember to subscribe if you're watching this and you're not already subscribed. Check out our Game Week 27 review from the pub. It's in the comment section below. You'll enjoy it. We enjoy producing it. So hopefully you'll enjoy watching it. It's a good laugh. It's a real good time. And as always, whoever you support, have a great week. And try and stay warm because it's getting cold. So everyone take care.